There's a moment right before she comes back, a shift you can feel but can't quite explain. Her silence sounds different. Her absence starts to linger longer. It's not magic, it's realization. Before she reaches out, she goes through an unseen process, from denial to reflection, from pride to quiet regret. In this video, we'll uncover what happens right before she returns, and how a stoic man doesn't react to her storm. He observes it, unmoved, like calm water reflecting thunder. If this message resonates with you, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's continue growing together in calm, strength, and discipline. Number 1. The shift before the storm. It doesn't begin with a message. It begins with energy. She seems distant, but not certain. Cold, but not convinced. Before a woman comes back, she starts to question her own silence. The confidence she once wore like armor begins to crack. At first, she tells herself she's fine, she posts, she laughs louder, she fills her days with distractions. But late at night, when the noise fades and the stillness returns, that's when she feels the echo of your absence the most. What once felt like control now feels like emptiness. You'll notice the signs if you're paying attention, not because you're looking for them, but because they're impossible to ignore. A random view on your story, a sudden memory she shares that somehow involves you, or a vague post that mirrors the words you once said to her. She's testing the waters, not ready to admit regret, but unable to deny curiosity. It's the emotional tension before the storm, the moment when pride and longing collide. And here's where the stoic man separates himself from the rest. You don't rush to fill the silence. You don't interpret her hesitation as a signal to act. Like Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Withdraw into yourself. The rational soul is its own refuge." You stand still in your calm, not because you're indifferent, but because you understand that peace is not a reaction, it's a position. Every time you choose restraint over impulse, you reinforce a message more powerful than any text you could send. You are no longer a man moved by uncertainty. This confuses her. She expected your silence to fade into longing, not strength. She expected your calm to be temporary, not permanent. Now she begins to wonder, has she lost her influence over you, or have you simply outgrown the version of her that once had it? That's the shift before the storm, when your stillness becomes the mirror that forces her to confront what she ran from. And while she wrestles with that discomfort, you remain unshaken. You've learned what the Stoics practice daily, that control over oneself is the greatest victory. The storm she's about to face isn't yours to calm, it's hers to endure. Because right before she comes back, the silence she created becomes too loud to bear, and the peace you built becomes the one thing she can't forget. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect on this. Every pause, every silence, every unanswered message has meaning not for her, but for you. It's in those quiet moments that a man discovers who he truly is without the noise of validation. Ask yourself, are you at peace, or are you waiting for something to disturb it? That's the real test of emotional mastery. Share your thoughts in the comments. What part of this message spoke to you most? I'd love to know how you interpret the silence before the return. Number 2. The echo of the past. You'll start seeing signs of the past surface again. An old song she once played on repeat, a picture from years ago that suddenly reappears, or a quote she posts that sounds a little too familiar. At first, it might seem like coincidence, but it's not. These things don't just happen by accident. They are her subtle ways of revisiting the connection, of testing the emotional air without risking direct vulnerability. It's not about reaching you, it's about feeling something again, something she hasn't felt since you walked away. And here's what most men misunderstand. They rush to decode these signs, to find hidden meaning, to believe it's love resurfacing. But in reality, she's not missing you. She's missing who she was when she was with you. Back then, she felt seen. She felt steady. She felt valuable in your calm presence. Now, that emotional safety is gone, and these echoes of the past become her way of reliving what used to make her feel alive. It's not nostalgia, it's emotional confusion, disguised as memory. This is where your strength as a stoic man shows. You don't chase memories, and you don't respond to emotional bait. You understand, as Epictetus once said, when someone irritates you, realize they do so because they are ignorant of what is good or evil. Her actions aren't meant to disturb your peace, they reflect her own lack of it. You, on the other hand, have learned to observe without absorbing. You no longer swim in her waves of emotion. You stand still like a lighthouse, steady, silent, and guiding by presence, not participation. Picture this. She plays that old song late at night, maybe even scrolls through your profile, wondering if you've moved on. And while she's trapped in the loop of what was, you're moving forward in peace. You've learned the rare art of emotional discipline, the ability to feel without reacting, to remember without longing. That's what separates the stoic man from the restless one. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Her memories, her small signals, her attempts to stir the past, all of it becomes your training ground. Instead of reacting, you use them to strengthen your calm. Instead of being pulled back, you become more rooted in the present. Because when you no longer respond to the echoes of the past, you prove to yourself that you're no longer bound to it. And that's when the real shift happens, not in her, but in you. You stop existing in the story she's trying to relive. You've moved beyond the noise, into the kind of silence that commands respect. The same silence that makes her realize that the man she remembers isn't waiting anymore. He's growing, evolving, becoming untouchable. And that realization, more than any message or memory, is what she feels most before she comes back. Number 3. The emotional mirage. Suddenly, she seems alive again, laughing louder, posting more, glowing in a crowd. But that glow is borrowed. The more she performs happiness, the more her heart feels its absence. What you're seeing isn't healing. It's a performance, one directed more at herself than at you. She's trying to fill the silence you left with noise, with color, with attention. It's her way of proving to herself that she's fine, that your absence didn't leave a mark. But deep down, even she knows the louder she tries to look happy, the emptier it feels inside. This is what I call the emotional mirage. It looks like joy from a distance, but up close, it's desperation wearing makeup. She's surrounded by people, yet none of them make her feel seen the way your presence once did. That's why she keeps sharing, posting, and showing off her new life. She's not communicating confidence, she's coping through appearance. It's the illusion many people fall for right before they come back, because pretending to have moved on is easier than actually doing the work to move on. Seneca once compared false joy to a fire fed by straw. It burns bright, but dies fast. That's what her glow is, a burst of temporary distraction before the quiet returns. And that quiet will hit harder than before. Meanwhile, you burn differently. You're not chasing distractions or seeking attention. Your flame burns slow and steady, fueled by self-discipline, reflection, and calm. You don't need to prove you're fine. You simply are. That's the essence of Stoicism. Your peace is self-sustained, not dependent on who notices it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." That's you now. Her storm can't shake your calm. You don't react to her mirage, because you understand what's really happening beneath it. She's struggling with the contrast between your stillness and her restlessness. So when she starts shining suddenly, don't mistake it for growth. Often, it's the last spark before she collapses inward. You don't chase that light, you outlast it. Because real peace doesn't perform, it endures. And when the noise fades, when the attention dies down, When she's left alone with her thoughts, that's when she'll remember you. Not as the man she lost, but as the calm she couldn't match. Number 4. The late night reach. Then comes that 1 a.m. message. Hey, or you still awake? It's never random. It's not romance. It's restlessness. That's the hour when the world goes quiet, and the noise inside her head gets louder. When distractions fade, and the people she tried to replace you with stop feeling enough. She scrolls through your old messages, rereads the words that once made her feel safe, and for a brief moment, she forgets her pride. That's when the need for connection outweighs the fear of rejection, and she reaches. Not because she's ready to come back, but because she wants to see if you still feel something. But here's the thing, you're not the same man she left behind. You've learned to sit with your solitude instead of running from it. You've turned silence into a kind of power most people never understand. While she's lying awake, trying to soothe her restlessness with a simple, hey, you've been spending those same hours mastering your emotions, realigning your purpose, and reclaiming your peace. This is what Cleanthes, the Stoic philosopher, who carried water by night to build strength by day, embodied the discipline to build quietly while the world sleeps. He knew that strength forged in solitude doesn't need validation. It speaks for itself. So when that late-night message lights up your phone, it's more than a test, it's a reflection. It shows you how far you've come. The old you might have jumped at the chance to respond, to rekindle something that once brought warmth. But the man you are now knows the difference between comfort and connection. You pause. You breathe. You remember that not every knock deserves to be answered, especially when peace is on the other side of the door. And maybe, just maybe, you'll choose to say nothing at all. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Because silence, when born from strength, carries more weight than any word could. It tells her that the calm she once overlooked has become unshakable, that the man who once waited for her message no longer needs it. That's your silent dominance. It's not about punishing her. It's about protecting your growth. Because in the end, the Stoic doesn't control others, he controls himself. And that's what she feels most in that quiet, sleepless hour. The gravity of a man who no longer chases chaos, but commands peace. Take a moment to think about that, not just what she's doing, but what you've become. Her message might be a reminder, but your response, or lack of it, reveals your mastery. That's the real transformation. The silence that once felt like emptiness has become your greatest teacher. So, before we move on, I want you to reflect on this. What does your silence say about you now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, or simply type, "My calm speaks louder," because sometimes that's all a Stoic man needs to say. Number 5. The nostalgia trap. She'll say, "Remember that trip?" Or, "I just saw something that reminded me of you." Nostalgia is her safe disguise. It's her way of reaching out without admitting she misses you. It's softer than, "I miss you," and safer than, "I was wrong." Right before a woman comes back, she often hides behind memories because they allow her to reconnect emotionally without lowering her pride. She's not really talking about the past. She's trying to see if she still has a place in your present. You'll notice how specific her memories are. The song that played on your first drive together, the coffee shop where you both sat for hours, or that inside joke that only you two would understand. These details aren't random. They're emotional hooks. By bringing them up, she's testing whether your heart still reacts. She wants to know if your calm has replaced her completely, or if her shadow still lingers somewhere inside you. But this is where your growth is revealed. Like Zeno of Citium, who lost his fortune in a shipwreck and said, "Now I've set sail for a better voyage," you've learned to treat loss as direction, not disaster. You no longer chase old comfort, you seek clarity. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed to revisit the past to feel whole. A Stoic man understands that nostalgia is just the mind's way of longing for a simpler time, not necessarily a better one. So, You don't get drawn into the trap. You can smile at the memory, maybe even appreciate it, but you no longer live there. Because the past is a story that already taught its lesson. Your peace, your discipline, your silence, they're what tell her that you're no longer chasing what was. And ironically, that's what makes her feel your absence even more. She remembers the man she left, but now she sees the man you've become. And that realization, more than any memory, is what pulls her back. Number 6. The jealous glance. Before she comes back, jealousy sneaks in. She notices you've changed your posture, your presence, maybe even who's smiling at you. Her curiosity turns into quiet panic. Suddenly, she starts checking your stories more than she used to, reacting to things she'd normally ignore, or showing up where you might be by accident. It's subtle, but it's there, that flicker of unease in her eyes when she realizes the world no longer revolves around her name. The energy that used to chase her now walks calmly past, untouched. And that shift, that new stillness in you, forces her to feel something she thought she'd buried, the fear of being forgotten by the man she once took for granted. You see, before a woman returns, her pride fights a silent war. She'll tell herself she doesn't care, but jealousy reveals what words try to hide. It's not always about another woman. Sometimes she's jealous of your peace, of the way you've become unbothered, composed, and centered without her. She notices how you laugh now, how you carry yourself like a man who has nothing to prove. That transformation, the one born out of silence and self-control, speaks louder than any argument ever could. It makes her wonder if you ever needed her as much as she assumed. It makes her question everything she thought she understood about your heart. Chrysippus, the mind of the Stoic school, once taught that emotions distort judgment, just as wine clouds vision. Jealousy, in that sense, isn't admiration, it's confusion, disguised as care. It's her heart reaching for clarity, while her ego pulls in the opposite direction. And when you see it, you don't need to react, boast, or validate it. You simply observe, the way a Stoic observes a storm, passing across the sea unshaken, patient, aware it will fade, because your worth no longer depends on her noticing you. And that freedom is something she didn't expect you to find. What makes her jealous isn't that you've moved on, it's that you've risen above. You've reached a place she can no longer control, where your calm has more gravity than her beauty ever did. She sees a man who chose growth over resentment, silence over chaos, and direction over distraction. And that's when it hits her. The man she thought she could leave behind has become the man she can't stop thinking about. Not because he flaunted change, but because he embodied it quietly, consistently, and without needing anyone's permission. That's the kind of transformation she never saw coming, and the kind she'll never forget. Number 7. The indirect apology. I've been thinking, or you didn't deserve how I acted. Those words might sound simple, but beneath them lies a quiet storm. It's pride clashing with regret. Right before she comes back, this is often how it begins, not with a full confession, but with a small, trembling step toward humility. She wants to bridge the gap, but without fully admitting how much she misses you. Her heart remembers what her pride tried to bury. So she phrases her apology in fragments, hoping you'll read between the lines. You might notice it in her tone, softer, slower, almost careful. Maybe she messages you after weeks of silence, saying she's been reflecting. Maybe she brings up how things just got out of hand, or that she wasn't in the right place mentally. Don't mistake this for manipulation. It's uncertainty. She's not sure if it's safe to be vulnerable again. And because she knows your calm presence now, feels different, detached, stronger, grounded, she approaches with caution. This is her way of asking, have you truly moved on? Without saying it out loud. For you, this is the test of composure. Musonius Rufus, one of the most practical Stoic teachers, said that strength isn't in overpowering others, but in mastering yourself. Forgiveness, he taught, begins within, not as a favor to someone else, but as an act of freedom for your own soul. That's what you embody now. You don't rush to comfort her. You don't fill the silence with reassurances or nostalgia. You simply listen, observe, and let your calm presence speak louder than any reply. Because here's the truth: when you've done the inner work, you no longer need apologies to validate your healing. You've already moved through the storm. You've rebuilt your peace from the inside out. So when her "I've been thinking about you" comes through, you see it clearly. This is not your moment to reopen old wounds. It's your moment to demonstrate emotional mastery. That doesn't mean you respond coldly. It means you respond consciously. You can acknowledge her words with empathy, but not attachment. You can appreciate her effort, yet remain unshaken in your balance. That's what makes a stoic man different. He doesn't seek closure through others. He creates it through clarity. And that clarity is magnetic. When she feels your grounded energy, the calm confidence of a man who no longer needs her validation, it unsettles her. It reminds her of what she lost, not just your presence, but your peace. In that silence between her words and your steady reply, she realizes something profound. You're no longer waiting for her to heal what she broke. You've already done it yourself. So, when that indirect apology arrives, take it for what it is, not a door reopening, but a mirror reflecting how far you've come. Because the man who once sought answers now lives in acceptance. You've learned that true grace isn't in saying, "It's okay." It's in knowing, deep within, that you've already forgiven and moved on in peace. Her words might have stirred something in you, maybe understanding, maybe distance, maybe a quiet sense of closure. Whatever it is, let it remind you how far you've come. Growth isn't loud. It's seen in the moments you choose peace over reaction. I'd love to hear your take. What does forgiveness mean to you now? Share your thoughts below, or type, "I choose peace over reaction," to anchor that truth for yourself. Now, let's move forward, because what happens next will show how your silence begins to reshape everything between you and her. Number 8. The friend request of regret. Out of nowhere, she reappears online, a follow, a like, a comment on an old post. It's her way of knocking softly on the door of your attention. It might be a post you made months ago, something you've already forgotten, but she chooses that one for a reason, because it once connected you both. She's not ready to say, "I miss you," but she hopes her digital shadow will remind you she still exists in your world. Before a woman comes back, this is often how it begins, quietly, indirectly, without a single word. Maybe you notice her profile appearing in your story views again. Maybe she likes a quote about peace or strength, that you posted something she used to tease you for. That's not coincidence. That's curiosity disguised as coincidence. It's her ego's way of checking the temperature. Is he still watching me? Has he moved on? Does he still care? These subtle moves are her first steps toward reconciliation, but not because she's ready, because she's afraid you already are. Hierocles once described the circles of concern, where we decide who earns proximity to our peace. You've spent time rebuilding that circle, smaller, calmer, stronger. And now that she's knocking again, your instinct might be to open the door. But a stoic man doesn't rush to restore what once cost him balance. He observes. He recognizes that some returns aren't about love. They're about curiosity, guilt, or the fear of being replaced. You stand at the center, steady and still, while her signals orbit around you. You don't block her that would give her too much power. You don't chase that would give her too much importance. You simply remain unshaken. Because peace isn't about isolation, it's about control. Epictetus said, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." And right now, mastery means not letting a like or a follow undo months of self-discipline. She might tell herself it's just friendly. But deep down, she's searching for something. reassurance that she still matters. And here's where your calm becomes magnetic. When you no longer react, she begins to feel the contrast, her restlessness against your composure, her uncertainty against your stability. That's when her curiosity turns into reflection. So, let her reach out from a distance. Let her orbit while you remain the axis. You don't need to prove that you've moved on. Your silence already says it. Right before she comes back, she'll do this, test your gates. But remember, peace is not a door waiting to be opened. It's a fortress built by discipline, and not everyone deserves another entry. Number 9. The test of your silence. She'll start testing the waters, posting cryptic quotes, sharing songs, or tagging mutual friends, just to see if you'll react. What she's really seeking isn't communication, it's confirmation. She wants to know if she still has access to your emotions, if her small gestures can still stir something in you. Maybe she'll share a late-night song that used to be yours, or post something like, "Funny how people change," hoping you'll take the bait. Sometimes it's even more subtle, a story that lasts just a few seconds longer than usual, or a picture meant to trigger curiosity. These aren't random actions. They're emotional probes, quiet attempts to pull a reaction from the man who used to respond so easily. But here's where everything shifts. You see, she's not testing your affection, she's testing your evolution. The moment you don't bite, she realizes something has changed. You no longer move from emotion. You move from awareness. That's when your silence becomes more powerful than any reply could ever be. When she notices that her quote, her photo, her nostalgic post doesn't move you, that's when curiosity turns into confusion, and confusion into reflection. Cato the Younger, the Stoic who chose integrity over influence, understood this kind of restraint. He stood against an empire, refusing to compromise his values, even when silence was misinterpreted as weakness. But his silence wasn't submission. It was strength, rooted in principle. Like Cato, your stillness isn't emptiness, it's control. It's the realization that not every action deserves a reaction, and not every test deserves participation. Think about it this way. When you respond, you tell her that the old dynamic still works. But when you remain still, you send a different message. The old version of you no longer exists. The man she once knew would have replied instantly, argued, explained, or chased. But the man you've become grounded, disciplined, and stoic simply observes. You don't need to prove indifference. Your composure already reveals it. You've mastered the art of emotional containment, the ability to feel, but not flinch. And this is what truly unsettles her. Because silence, when it comes from a man who was once expressive, speaks volumes. It tells her that your peace no longer depends on her presence. It tells her that the circle she once occupied has been closed, not out of bitterness, but out of balance. Hierocles once described these circles of concern, where we decide who earns proximity to our inner peace. She used to be near the center, but through your discipline, she's drifted outward. And though she may try to step back in, you've learned to guard that space wisely. So, when she tests your silence, don't break it. Don't post something in response. Don't decode every sign. Observe, but stay anchored. Let her feel the contrast between her noise and your stillness. Because right before she comes back, she needs to feel the weight of your calm, that quiet, unshakable energy that no longer needs validation. And that's when she'll realize something profound. Your silence was never distance. It was evolution. It was the proof that you've mastered what few ever do, the ability to remain peaceful in the presence of emotional chaos. Number 10. The surrender to clarity. After all her tests, she stops. Not because she's done with you, but because she's finally realizing the truth. You're no longer waiting. You've detached, without bitterness, living fully in your own orbit. This is the quiet moment before she comes back. The point when her pride starts to lose its voice and her emotions finally have space to speak. For weeks, maybe months, she tried to prove she didn't care. She posted, she laughed, she pretended that moving on was easy. But deep down, she was still performing for an audience of one you. And then one day, something shifts. The performance becomes exhausting. The effort to look strong begins to feel weak, because strength isn't pretending you've moved on, it's being at peace, whether someone stays or leaves. That's the realization she faces now. She sees your calm not as indifference, but as evolution. You're no longer reacting, no longer hoping, no longer orbiting her gravity. You've built your own center, and the truth she can't ignore is this: your silence isn't cold, it's composed. It's the kind of peace that can't be faked. You've stopped measuring your worth through her responses. You wake up focused on your own rhythm, the gym, your purpose, your discipline, the life that doesn't depend on her validation. And she notices it, not through what you say, but through what you no longer do. You don't check her stories. You don't chase clarity. You've already found it within yourself. That's when curiosity becomes regret. She starts to ask herself questions she never imagined. Was he really over it? Did he ever need me as much as I thought? Those questions echo louder in her mind than any argument could. Posidonius, who studied nature to understand human storms, said emotions are like weather, temporary, but powerful. You've learned to observe them without being swept away. You've realized that what once felt like loss was actually liberation. Her clarity comes when she sees that your peace isn't a performance. It's a new reality she can't disturb. She used to believe your calm was weakness, that silence meant you were hurting. Now she understands its strength, a shield forged through pain, patience, and perspective. And here's the beauty of it: you didn't seek revenge, closure, or attention. You simply kept walking. Your focus became your freedom. You've mastered what most never will: emotional detachment without resentment. That's the highest form of stoicism, not suppressing emotion, but transforming it into stillness. You embody what Zeno meant when he said, "Man conquers the world by conquering himself." You stopped needing to prove anything, and that's when everything began to shift. She's surrendering now, not to your presence, but to the reality of your absence. The very calm she once took for granted now feels unreachable. She's realizing too late that what you built within yourself was never meant to pull her back, but to pull you forward. That's the surrender to clarity when she finally sees the truth. You didn't move on to make her miss you. You moved on to find your peace. And now, ironically, that's what makes her miss you most. This is the hinge moment. Her story slows, yours moves forward. If this spoke to you, tap like so. More men hear it. Share your thoughts in the comments. What part hit you hardest? And how are you protecting your peace right now? Or simply type, "I move in silence, not in fear." Now let's shift into what comes next when that clarity pulls her closer, and how you respond without surrendering the ground you've earned. Number 11. The return, but you've changed. When she finally comes back, she expects the man she left, the one who cared too much, who reacted too fast, who made her emotions the center of his peace. But what she finds now is unfamiliar. You're still you. But there's a quiet distance, an invisible wall built not out of pride, but out of growth. She can sense it the moment she sees you in your eyes, your posture, your energy. You're not waiting anymore. You've learned how to exist fully without her validation, and that unsettles her more than silence ever did. At first, she tries what used to work. She might test your patience with nostalgia, the soft, "remember when" conversations, or that subtle look that once pulled you in, but you no longer react the same way. You smile, you listen, but you're not caught in the gravity of her emotions anymore. What she doesn't realize is that while she was busy doubting, you were rebuilding. You were learning to stand in stillness, to let the storm pass without needing to chase calm outside yourself. Your peace has become your boundary. You don't welcome her back out of loneliness. You consider her presence from a place of discernment. Because the man you are now understands that not everyone who returns deserves to re-enter. You've outgrown the version of yourself who needed reassurance. You've become the man who chooses alignment over attachment. Arius Didymus, the philosopher who once advised emperors on the art of emotional steadiness, taught that true wisdom lies in remaining balanced in both fortune and loss. You live that wisdom now. Whether she stays or leaves again, you stay steady. You've realized that what once felt like rejection was actually redirection toward your own power, your own clarity, your own center. She might look at you with disbelief, wondering how you can be so calm in the face of what once tore you apart. But that's what happens when a man returns to himself. The noise that used to pull at your emotions now fades into the background. You no longer chase meaning in her reactions. You've found meaning in your response. So, when she comes back, it's not a victory march, it's a mirror. One that reflects how much you've evolved. You don't need to prove that you've changed. Your presence does that for you. You are grounded, focused, peaceful, not because she came back, but because you never lost yourself again. The return isn't your reward. Your evolution is. Because the man who learns to master his inner world becomes untouchable by the chaos of others. And that, my friend, is the moment she realizes she didn't just lose a man, she lost her calm. Right before she comes back, she'll do all of this not out of cruelty, but confusion. Your silence forced her to face herself, and your calm reminded her what real strength looks like. If this message resonated with you, give this video a like. It helps this channel reach more men walking the same path of inner mastery. Leave a comment below and tell me what part spoke to you most. And before you go, watch the videos on screen. Each one will take you deeper into the mind of the stoic man who no longer chases validation, but attracts through peace, discipline, and quiet strength.